So I'm doing a video response here. One video was from the 8-foot-long man, the 8-foot man-child. Sorry, I don't know how I got that mixed up. I don't have the sitar in the background, so I can't really play the sitar music, and I definitely don't have the drugs he was on. I do, on the other hand, I have some Nag Champa. So I'm going to actually light up some Nag Champa to get into it a little bit. Ooh yeah, baby. Obviously, I don't have the drugs, okay? So, but I do have something that hippies use to cover up the smell of drugs. I have patchouli. I wear patchouli. Into this. There we go. Okay, now I'm into it. He was asking about why I'm talking about the uniformity of nature. And he made it seem like the uniformity of nature is kind of irrelevant. And uniformity of what, you know? And he was talking about uniformity of the galaxy and all these other things. Well, when I'm talking about uniformity of nature, what I'm talking about is a basic reliance upon things being as they are unless acted upon. For example, you knew that if you put up a video, you had confidence that this video camera, your video cam or whatever, was going to record if you pushed a certain button. You knew that if you moved your mouth in a certain direction, that it was going to say certain words. You knew that you were going to put together arguments, and those arguments would be just as valid tomorrow as they were today. Okay, you relied upon a uniformity of nature. You know, to go back to the argument that you said I shouldn't use. Actually, how did you say it?
Paleocrat, you'd better never, ever use those arguments again. You hear me, boy?
You hear me? I said again.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm going to use the argument again, and I'm going to say this is what it really had to do with, is that when you talk about the uniformity of nature, when you got in front of your webcam, you presumed that the webcam wasn't going to turn into a banana. Okay, you presumed that as you're typing on the internet, that your fingers aren't going to turn into a pair of keys. Right? You presume this. You just naively assume this to be the case. My question is how do you, as an atheist and as an evolutionist, how do you account for this uniformity? You rely upon it. You rely upon it for science. And yet you want to say, well, what uniformity are you talking about? I'm talking about the uniformity that you rely upon every single day. If people don't believe in the uniformity of nature, then they could just, why not drive in front of a semi-truck? You don't know what the results are going to be. There's no uniformity. There's really no predictability. Without the uniformity of nature, there is no predictability. Without predictability and without uniformity, you have no science. Bottom line. If you can't account for it, stop using it.
You better never, ever use those arguments again.
Any worldview that one has when it comes to their belief about man, how man relates to one another, how man relates to the world, okay, and all of these things can be seen through your worldview, your atheistic evolutionary worldview. Everything can be seen through this, so of course it's got sociological ramifications. Of course it does. See, that yes, it does have sociological ramifications, it does have personal ramifications, because it ultimately deals with who we are, how we relate to one another. It's not that difficult. Now, he actually goes so far as to say that he opposes the trustworthiness of the senses. Now, when I say the trustworthiness of the senses, I'm not talking about the infallibility of the senses. I'm talking about a basic trustworthiness of them. I'm saying that, you know what, generally speaking, if I look out the window and I see a tree, which I'm doing right now, then in all likelihood it's a tree. Okay, if I'm driving along and I see a car coming my way, I'm not going to sit there and say, I don't believe in the trustworthiness of my senses. My senses are wrong all the time. This isn't really a semi-truck. Your reaction, your gut reaction every time is based upon the idea that you have a general trustworthiness in your senses. And if we don't have a general trustworthiness in the senses, then how in the world can we have a general trustworthiness in empirical science? Once again, trustworthiness is not the exact same thing as infallibility. Nobody is saying that what we see or that what we hear is absolutely infallible all the time. What I am saying is that there is a general trustworthiness, and I don't think that the atheistic worldview, the atheistic evolutionary worldview, I don't believe that it can account for this thing. And I haven't heard any response to it so far. The messenger, they sit there and say, well, okay, I'm going to try to get his qualifications. Once they can't get the qualifications, because obviously I'm well read on the topic, so what they do is they find one amongst the myriad that I've read. One amongst the many. And they jump on that and say, aha! Can ham! All of a sudden, your viewpoint is bogus, and everything you've said is completely heinous. And now we understand why you're misinformed. It's because one of the 8 or 9 people you mentioned was Ken Ham, and we disagree with him. Absolutely nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. He jumps on my case about origin, okay? Maybe he didn't get the gist of it here. But when I was talking about, okay, I had 2 things put together. Atheistic evolutionists. And I was asking how they can account for certain things. How these certain things, all these things are necessary, okay, for the existence of science, as I've explained so far, and how nobody has contended otherwise. Yeah, right! Paleocrat's using that argument again! I've said that the uniformity of nature, predictability, trustworthiness of the senses, belief that the subject can know the object in some credible fashion, and the existence and reliability of the abstract are all absolutely essential for science. And these are ultimately questions pertaining to worldview. Okay, that's what everybody's evaded. You guys have skirted the questions, you guys have beat around the bush, and you've done nothing but dodge bullets this entire time. Don't use it! Why not? Why do you think I'm the completion? Why do you think we as humans are the completion of this stuff? Why when mutations happen, like when I was born with 2 thumbs on one hand, why did they take that off? Why didn't they sit there and say, look at this random mutation? Look at how it happened. Man, natural selection, because you know what? We would survive better if we had 6 fingers than if we had 5. Oh, but they clapped it off. Man, what a bummer. It all boils down to this, and I can't say this enough. I'm telling you, don't use the argument. Don't use it. I'm going to say it. I'm warning you last time, boy. Don't go there.
You better not use the arguments again.
Don't. I'm going to say this again. And it's this. Real simple. Is that I don't believe, and I have yet to see, as simple as they claim it is, as simple as they claim these arguments to be, and as evident and as obvious as they ought to be, they have yet to show it, that from their worldview, from an atheistic evolutionary worldview, that they can satisfy the necessary preconditions for science. And until they can do this, they have no right to it. And I made a statement earlier in the comment section saying that this is completely fideistic. And it's true, is that when they sit there and they say, well, we don't have to account for it. We don't have to account for all of these things which make science possible. We just do science. Well, that's arbitrary. That's begging the question. That's presuming something that hasn't been proven. And how unscientific is that? They're presuming something that isn't proven. And furthermore, they're presuming something that they don't even feel that they have to prove. And they have to show us why they don't have to prove it. Can they? Of course not. Of course. Will they do it? No. Can they do it? No. No. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to keep on making lame arguments. They're going to keep on saying, don't you ever make that argument again. That's what they're going to do. Because they don't have anything. Because when push comes to shove, they're nothing but mathematicians that can't account for their counting. That's it. They're people who do something and they can't account for why they do it. They just do it. And you know what? That completely begs the question, and it is a disgrace, and it's a mockery to science.
You better not